There was a show that I think a lot of people wanted, and that didn't go forward. And Michael, you were leading the charge for Green
Still
Arrow and the
is.
Canaries. Still, you're right,
Still
Reed,
is.
still doing it. For it to go forward because it should have. I mean, if there's to make an argument for a show whose backdoor pilot episode proved that it would have been successful, it's that show.
Yes, here we go. The rant we've been waiting for. Um, the fact is, like, if you're going to spin off the originator of a shared universe, like Arrow's had a lot of offshoots over the years, but it never really had a direct spin off. Supergirl and the Flash and Legends were not directly related to it, even if those characters did appear in it. Arrow was going to bow out, and by doing so, it was going to leave a little something behind in Green Arrow and the Canaries. It would have been set 20 years in the future after Oliver Queen saved the multiverse, and everything would have been safe in Star City for 20 years. Don't know how that happened, but like apparently that's how it worked. And Mia Queen, Oliver and Felicity's daughter, was going to be living a happy life, unlike the one pre-crisis we saw. She was going to be living a happy life until the two Canaries from the present showed up in the future, reminded her of what her life was like pre-crisis. So she suddenly teams up with them, becoming the new Green Arrow, following in her father's footsteps, and that thus Green Arrow and the Canaries would have been born. It would have been a really unique dynamic because the original female lead of Arrow, Katie Cassidy, would have been reprising her role as the second Laurel, evil Laurel, who's now a hero. So Black Siren turned to Black Canary, and the other Black Canary would have also been reprising her role. Juliana Harkavy would have been playing Dinah Drake. And it aired after Crisis. And aside from Arrow's installment of Crisis, it was the most watched episode of Arrow's final season, pulling in almost 1 million viewers, which is the closest the final season got to it. It received a highly positive response. People who didn't warm to Mia at the start really warmed to this new version of Mia. They were very happy to see Laurel finally get a center stage, and Dinah, who had been overlooked for a long time as well. It was similar to Arrow, but incredibly different. And it could have been something different for the Arrowverse. And since Arrow's final season spent 8-9 episodes building towards that, the fact that it didn't go ahead with so much fanfare behind it just feels like such a missed opportunity. And I feel like the Arrowverse kind of died a little bit when that didn't happen, because this show was literally the future of the Arrowverse, and it made it look like the CW wasn't willing to invest in the future of the Arrowverse. And now all we've got now are these 4 shows living on. No Supergirl, no Black Lightning, no Arrow. We just have these 4 remaining Arrow shows living on, doing their own thing. They're not interconnected anymore. And I feel like Green Arrow and the Canaries might have been that small thread to keep them together, because it was a direct relation of Arrow. So the fact that it didn't go ahead when there was so much going for it, and I know they've used the pandemic as an excuse, I do understand that, but of all the spin-offs they had in development, including the 100 prequel that nobody really wanted, I feel like this could have been the one that could have worked. So for them not to go for it and then ultimately turn their back on the other spin-offs they had in development anyway, it just felt like that whole year, that whole pilot season was just a waste of time, and it killed what could have been one of the more intriguing Arrowverse shows.
Y'all, that's been living inside Michael for so long.
It's not, it's going to continue.
I think they vastly underestimated the power of women in the Arrowverse. Like but also, wait, I have a question. So you said it's going to be 20 years in the future. How are they going to get away with Katie Cassidy being in it?
Because, God, she's played so many characters. So she was the original Black Canary, but she died. Then she came in as Black Siren, who then became Black Canary, who was Laurel's evil Earth 2 doppelganger. But so Black Siren became Black Canary. The second half of Arrow was all about her redemption. And she was more closer to the comic book Black Canary because she actually had the super-powered canary cry. But after Crisis, a Crisis wiped out Earth 2, so she had no more home. So she had to live on Earth 1 after that. So she took the place of the original Laurel. Everybody else on Earth 1 thinks she's still Laurel, the original Laurel. But after Crisis happened, she then went to the future with Dinah. The 2 Canaries in the present went to the future. So they jumped 20 years into the future. They left the present behind. So that's why they both look young. Because, not to make it very confusing, in one of the original timelines, Laurel did show up, but she was old in 2040. In this one, she skipped all of that out and decided to jump straight to 2040. So the 2 Canaries are young, while Mia is young as well. So the 3 of them are the same age as they were on Arrow. They did a lot of rewrites, and the fact that the show didn't go ahead now with those characters now stuck in a future we're never going to see. It just feels like there was so much story to tell, and it was such a missed opportunity.
Yeah.
And they crafted it so well because it worked. Like, I feel like the backdoor pilot really drew you in. Not to mention they left it on a cliffhanger that they now have to figure out how to work into the Arrowverse shows, and they're not doing it successfully because when Mia came back to the Flash to search for her brother, the storyline was there, it fell flat, and then she was gone again. And I was like, okay, but when are you going to complete her story? Because you left her hanging.
Yeah, and seeing her on her own in the Green Arrow suit, it reminded me. Of course, y'all know I want to see Black Canary, but like it reminded me that she could have been such a unique character on her own, and the fact that they did make references to it, that William was still missing, that she had the arrow that shot out a sound that sounded like the two canary cries mixed together as a tribute to the two canaries. So it just, there was a lot there untouched, and I feel like they might come back to it someday. But we now know that Juliana Harkavy, who played the other Black Canary, has now been cast in the lead of an ABC LA Law pilot. So I feel like the show's come and gone, and the Arrowverse has not yet moved on from it. And it just feels, I'm going to keep saying it just feels like such a missed opportunity. Probably won't be the last time I say it on this episode, but we'll come to that later.